Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Findmypast from home. My name is Ellie. I'm the Senior Community Executive for Findmypast, and thank you so much for joining us today. So why are we here today? So since March, we've been running Findmypast from home, and it's a chance for you guys to connect with each other, connect with us, and also connect with experts. And it's also Black History Month here in the UK at the moment. So we are celebrating Black British history. We are trying to help Black Britons and anybody with a connection or an interest even in this area to trace their roots. And today's topic, which is tracing African Caribbean roots, is just part of that story. So be sure to check out Findmypast website, head to our blog. We're running a new blog every single day on Black British history. So make sure you check these out. And even if you don't have African Caribbean roots, we hope that you'll enjoy this session and learn something new as well. And I'm delighted to say that today's special guest is Pooran Bridgelal. He is a Trinidadian-born genealogist, researcher, author and speaker, and he resides in Toronto, Canada. So welcome, Pooran.
Hi, welcome everybody.
It's great that you could join us today, Pooran. Thank you so much. And just a little bit more background on Pooran as well. He has spearheaded several genealogy lectures in the UK, Toronto, and the West Indies. And his lectures focus on teaching West Indians who are of African, East Indian, and Chinese descent. His research has also involved helping West Indians understand the history of slave registers and interpreting East Indian indentured records. And do you remember, Pooran, we were talking the other day, we were both at Roots Tech London last year and we never crossed paths. And I just think that's so sad.
No, we didn't. But
I think that's a real shame.
yeah, I think maybe it worked out better that way because I was so taken up. I had my two good friends, Vin and Geeta Naidu. We were there doing a booth on India, and Vin and Geeta had designed the booth, the banners, and everything, and I was the sole researcher for India. So we were just so taken up with everything, and I had a huge banner showing my photo, and on the banner going Trinidad and Tobago, and we had a few West Indians. As soon as they saw Trinidad and Tobago, they just made a beeline right towards our booth. So we had some good exposure there also. So yeah.
Absolutely. Now, Niall is telling me, because Niall's in the comments today, he's just telling me that we currently can't see you. So I just need to make sure that we can. So I'm just going to flick it onto a different layout. So that should work. So we should be able to see you now. That's good.
Okay, there we go.
There we go. We can see you now. Thanks, Niall. So do say hi to Niall in the comments, everybody. I'll just say hello to some of you. Let's have a scroll up. So we've got William, we've got Linda, Anya, we've got Rosie, Roz, Tess, Victoria, Valerie, Grace. Fantastic. Lovely. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. If you do have a question for Pooran about African Caribbean genealogy or about its history, please add it into the comments and we will get to as many as we possibly can later on. Okay. And I suppose I should also mention as well, on Facebook earlier, we premiered a very exciting video, which was an interview. My colleague Carrie interviewed her mum Sylvia about her experiences in coming to the UK in the 1960s. So please give that a watch. It was an absolute pleasure to work on. So if you do have 15 minutes to spare, I would really recommend giving that a watch. So what are we going to be talking about today then? So Pooran and I are going to be talking about African Caribbean genealogy, a little bit of background. I'm going to be asking him some questions. We're going to be talking about things like sources, where to start, historical events to bear in mind. We're also going to, as I said, take some of your questions as well. And I'm hoping, if we've got time, that Pooran might be able to share his top 3 tips as well. So we've got lots to cover, so we better get started. Now, first of all, I thought it would be good just to talk about your career a little bit, Pooran. So you are a genealogist and a researcher, but what inspired you to begin this particular career? What do you think has driven you to this?
So when I was at the University of Toronto, I was completing my degree in Caribbean history, and I decided maybe I should start doing my genealogy again because, being of East Indian descent, and I grew up in Trinidad, I had what really started it was when I was 15 years old. I had joined the Latter-day Saint Church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and then I decided to maybe start my family history because I was being told about doing this. And when I started it, it was slow at first because Caribbean people don't like talking about the past. There's so much trauma and everything attached to the past that it's hard, for your grandparents and your parents that grew up, with struggles to go back and talk about all these things. So I gathered information here and there, and then when I moved to Canada after I got married, I was living here, and while doing my degree at the University of Toronto, I I said I will start it. So I went online, and I'm gonna drop a name right here. So sorry, guys. I went on Ancestry, and there was nothing on East Indian for the Caribbean, and much on the Caribbean. And I think that became the tipping point for me where I realized I had to do something to change this. So while I was writing all my research essays and articles for school, all my assignments, I literally went through the hundreds of books in the library at the university. I went through everything and I started compiling. I would go through one book just to find one sentence that would make all the difference, and hundreds and hundreds of documents going through until finally, I came up with my own method of teaching West Indians how to do and trace their genealogy. So the work that I do, I empower West Indians on how to trace their own genealogy.
That's fantastic, and obviously it's working. I think there's a sea change coming about in family history and in the genealogy community now. So let's all keep striving for that and keep striving for diversity. So everybody, no matter where you come from, that you can research your family history and your family tree. So the next question I've got for you is, if anybody is interested in the work you do, are there any particular books or articles that they might be able to check out?
Okay, so well, just being here today is a first start. Okay, and then secondly, with Findmypast, we're doing an upload video coming up on October 21st. So in that, I'll be doing an introduction on doing specifically your African Caribbean genealogy. Okay, so that's a step right there. Roots Tech in February has been launched, and they're invited everyone worldwide, and it's a free event now to register. I have asked, I've submitted 3 class proposals, and one of them will be on interpreting the slave registers. So if anybody from Family Search is listening, you have to now, everybody's watching you, you have to accept my 3 proposals. I got 2 on India and 1 on the slave registers. So that will be another event. And I have a book. I want to make sure that you guys get this. The third thing is to get this book. There you go. Tracing Your Caribbean Ancestors, okay, by Guy Granum. So it's not really available right now, but see if you can find it still in your library. But that's a really good start right there. The articles I wrote one for the University of Toronto years ago regarding that was a private publication. The other one I did for was another company in Trinidad. Oh, another private publication. A family was, wanted me to do some research. This one was called Tobias Kingsale, an African ancestor with an Irish name, Kingsale. So I was able to help out with that and the Irish connection to the Caribbean. The story needs to be told a lot more, but because of lack of resources and doing more research. The other thing, I just helped a gentleman by the name of Dr. Dennison Moore from Canada just finished publishing this book, The First East Indians to Trinidad. It's available on Amazon. I helped him with the research with that. So, phenomenal work. It's just a starter right now, but as we go along, and when we do the upload video on the 21st, there'll be lots of more information because I go into detail, but I'm very specific as to what to do and what to look for, um, because I've been through all those books and all those materials. I just give you the basic um, research ideas and what to do to start your research. Yeah.
Fantastic. And I should also mention, before I say, make sure you return to our Facebook page on the 21st for Pooran's lecture. He has also written a blog for us on the Windrush generation and also the Windrush research as well. And hopefully if Niall is listening, which I think he is, he can pop that in the comments for us. So if you'd like to check that out, please feel free. So my next question is, you've already touched on this a little bit, but what has your experience been in this field of family history? So tracing African Caribbean roots. What's that been like for you?
Well, okay, so I like to be really, really honest, when everybody really asks me. So I'll be honest with you guys and frank. So about 10 years ago, when I started doing the research for my East Indian side of the family, I wasn't getting much at all because, I'm in Toronto and it's so hard. And I remember sitting down at my computer, and I was just so, I guess, disappointed and angry because I didn't know what to do, but I was finding information on Africans, and their journey from Africa and slavery and everything. And I speak to my ancestors, sorry, but I said, what is going on here? I can't find anything with you guys, and when I went on the computer, and I was looking up stuff just started coming on the computer, just like literally downloading of it. I was finding more material on Africans, and I was like, okay, so I guess I need to focus on Africans right now, and that's what I started doing. And after doing all of this, I went through a period where I was so angry with slavery, and and like I tell people, I mean, what's written right now regarding slavery is just a drop in the bucket. We cannot imagine the violence, the rape, the brutality that happened during slavery. One particular story that I always share in my lectures, I tell individuals who attend, I said, the sharks used to follow the slave ships from the coast of Africa to the Caribbean because they knew food was going to be provided, you know. And doing African genealogy has opened up my eyes. Being a Trinidadian, my parents taught us, we're all one people, so doing African genealogy has come natural to me. I may look Indian, you know. When I moved to Canada, the Tamil ladies from Sri Lanka, when they saw me in the grocery, they used to talk to me in Tamil, and I says, no, I'm I'm from Trinidad. I speak English. But now I've learned to accept that I'm Tamil. But but African genealogy has been such an eye opener for me. But it doesn't stop there because West Indians, we are so mixed. It isn't funny. We will find out that we have an uncle who is an African, an aunt who's a Chinese, then down the line you get a Portuguese somewhere. So doing African genealogy helps you also to discover your other ancestry, on your other side. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think that's an excellent answer, and I appreciate you being honest as well. So what we'll do now is we'll have a quick chat about, if I can get this fancy banner. Fancy banner! Discussion of African Caribbean genealogy. And we'll now remove the fancy banner. If any of you remember when Max and Alex used to do Fridays Live, there was always confetti that would just go off on screen every now and then. So no confetti today, though. Maybe next time. So let's have a chat. So my next question for you is if our audience have got or think they might have African Caribbean roots, where do you think is the best place for them to start?
Okay, so home is always the best place to start. Okay, and speaking with your parents, your grandparents, you know, you have to get stories out of them. So at directly behind me, I have something called a memory shelf. Okay. Now we all have these in our homes, but what it is, we call it a cabinet with all stuff in it, cabinet of curiosity. We have a bookshelf. So I'm just gonna lift my laptop a bit here so you can see what's behind me. So okay, so that brass jar, okay, that's called a lota. Okay, that's what the Indians brought with them on the ship. You can see some old photographs. You see a photo of a train.
Mhm.
Okay, that jar is a Chinese jar. My adopted mom, who passed away 2 years ago, she's Chinese. Okay, the books you see there, they're all school books from when we were kids. And one particular book I'm gonna grab. This one here is called Sweets. Okay, this is Trinidad Sweets, and right over here, this is an old iron. Okay,
Wow, I love
so
that.
so the reason I'm showing you this, okay, there's a reason for my madness. Okay, so I want each of you to have something like this in your home. Okay, just collect little mementos of the past. Right now, the whole world is on lockdown. WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger is alight with videos, sharing with families or ever, talking with everyone. Show them these objects, okay? And this is how you get the conversation started, right? And that's what it is. You just show them. I said, "Mommy, do you remember this? Daddy, do you remember this? Uncle, do you remember this?" And then they may not remember right now, but like a day or two after, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, Joan, we were talking to Joan the other day, and she had this item, and I remember the story that, the train is a big thing in the Caribbean, talking about journeys with your families. Right behind me, I got photographs from the 1800s, 1880s of cocoa estate. My mom grew up in a cocoa estate, coffee estate. They used to sell cocoa, to and which would eventually go to Cadbury's in England, right? So all these objects are mementos, and they have a history tied to them. The reason why I showed you that book on sweets, you know, we underestimate the power of food, right? The simple act of like my wife, today, no, yesterday she cooked roti and fried aloo or fried potato. That's my favorite, and my son loves it, but I know can tell my son, say, your grandma, which is he would call his aji, my mom, used to cook that for us on Sunday evening, so, and that's a little story right there for you. So little things like that gets the ball rolling, and it's nothing big. Ellie, I want you to think of a number between 7 and 10.
8.
Oh, 8. Okay. So Ellie just picked the number 8. So whatever number you're thinking, audience, okay, from 7 to 10, let's say is 10, okay? starting from today, okay, you're going to spend 10 minutes researching your West Indian heritage, and you're going to do this once a week. Okay, just 10 minutes. That's all you're going to do. With committing yourself for these few minutes, you're going to do research on, you're going to talk to your parents, your grandmother. You're going to, oh, what you can do also, you can go to the dollar store, you can get an old box, you can wrap it up in gift wrap. This is a memory box. So whenever, you have your birth certificates, you get copies of all of this, you put that in there, you leave it in the living room. When your nosy relatives come over, they're going to say, what is in that box? You're going to say, well, this is what it is. And then they're going to say, well, I have a copy of a photo that you can get. This is how you're going to build your collection. Yeah.
Fantastic. And today's session is on African Caribbean genealogy. And I thought it would be useful for our audience to understand, why do we specify African Caribbean genealogy? Why isn't it just Caribbean genealogy, for example?
So the migration of the Africans, they started in the late 1500s and maybe earlier on, okay, in the late 1400s. They simply not only came to the West Indies or to the Caribbean, okay, they went to the Americas also, whether it be Venezuela, uh, Florida, the America, and then they went to Nova Scotia. So the migration of Africans is just widespread. They're everywhere, and that is why today when we say African, we're trying to be a little bit more specific, because their migration was more when you compare it to the East Indians who came from India to the Caribbean, right? The Chinese, they were diverse also, but not as much as the Africans. So take, for instance, the War of 1812, the Africans went from the US, they went to Nova Scotia, Canada. Then they left there, they went to Sierra Leone. They also went to the Bahamas, they went to Jamaica, they went to Trinidad also. In the late 1800s, after the emancipation and everything, after the slavery was abolished, there was a shortage of labor in some of the islands, famine, no work. So what they did, Africans were migrating from Barbados to Trinidad, and a lot of them were employed as policemen. They went to the police force because they were tall, right? So we have a lot of Bajans in Trinidad who don't know that they were from Barbados. Jamaicans, they went to the Panama Canal right after the Chinese. Okay, so a lot of West Indians, Jamaicans, Bajans. There were a lot of Barbadians also that went to the Panama. After the Panama Canal, they went to Cuba, because Cuba's sugar industry was still going, right? So when we say African Caribbean, we just want to be a little bit more specific in the migration. But like I said, when you're doing your Caribbean genealogy, you have to study all of them, because there's always an interconnection somewhere, and as an amateur genealogist, West Indian researcher, you can also help another West Indian with their work also. Yeah.
Fantastic. And I suppose that leads me nicely into my next question. And this is true, I think, whichever area of family history you're researching, whether it's your Irish family history, whether it's your American family history, what historical events do we need to bear in mind when we research African Caribbean genealogy?
Okay, so Google should be your best friend. Okay, Google, you have to learn. If you don't know how to use a computer, then you have to learn. And Google search engine. Now, every island has a different timeline of history. Okay, so slavery was a big one. The apprenticeship system was another one. But when you get into the researching part, you will get articles leading you to one to another. But also, I want to refer back to our class that we're going to be uploading on Wednesday, the 21st. I will do a short timeline, and I'll guide you guys in that also, because each island is different, but what I always tell individuals is, um, if you're learning one island, and one island like Jamaica has a lot of information for it, and Barbados, always assume that the same information that you get for Jamaica and Barbados will refer to the other islands also, right? Because the British Empire was all there, right? So usually you always have the same pattern type of information running through the same system in all the islands. Yeah.
And is there anything, I mean, I don't want to get too much into slavery right now, because I think you're going to be focusing on that a little bit more on the 21st, but just in a nutshell, why do we need to bear this in mind if we're researching African Caribbean roots?
You can't have one without the other, right?
I think in a nutshell, that's pretty good. Yeah.
You can't have one without the other. There's no question about it. The same thing with indentureship with Indians. You can't have one without the other. Two separate histories, mind you, but slavery has been around for 400 years, and the numbers right now, they say were 10 to 12 million enslaved Africans who came, but I'm sure that there was more than that, and just think of all the countless lives that were lost in the ocean and in the slave plantations. You have to reconcile yourself with the past, right? And that's the most important thing when you're doing African genealogy. You have to reconcile with your ancestors, and that's what genealogy work is all about. Your heart turning towards your ancestors, right, and recognizing, the struggles that they went through to, I guess, for you to be where you are right now, right? And yes, there are others who are of European descent who will have ancestors who were enslavers, but remember, just because your ancestors' DNA is in you, that doesn't make you who they are and the choices that they made. And I would ask, if you know that you have records from your ancestors who were enslavers, don't destroy the records. Don't hide it. If you don't want it, give it to me. Donate it to to a library or something, but don't destroy it, because there might be one name that someone is looking for. A couple of years ago, Ellie, I was doing some research, and I came across 218 names of Africans who went to Australia, and it's only 218 names, but I had to find it, right? There was this thing in me that made me want to find it, and I did find all their names. So I have 218 or so names now, that whenever I start doing my own projects, I can provide it with someone who is looking for their family names. Just think,
it might help somebody else.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, just think, Ellie, if your family tree was suddenly erased.
Yeah, and it brings me back to the interview we uploaded today, and Sylvia says, she doesn't know where in Africa her ancestors came from, and I just think that's heartbreaking, and that's due to slavery. It's a real shame. But as family historians, we're all very curious, and this is what we want to find out. We want to find out the stories that our ancestors lived. Sometimes they're good stories, sometimes they're not so good. But as you say, we shouldn't be trying to hide the past. We should just be learning from it and embracing it, I suppose.
Yeah. and it's painful,
Mm,
but like I said, reconciling and moving on will help you as an individual, you know.
absolutely. So next question from me then. If somebody in our audience does have African Caribbean roots and they're not quite sure where to get started yet, what records to look at, what records would you advise they have a look at to begin with?
Okay, so that book that I referred to earlier on by Guy Granum is a fantastic start. It's a phenomenal book, right? There is all the information is in there. Every island have their, they have their own archives. Okay. Um, so Guy Granum's book will outline everything for you to start and for you to understand and where to start. Um, Ancestry has the slave registers, but they don't explain to you how to use the slave registers, right? And how to interpret it, which is really, really crucial, right? Um, and that is where I'll be coming in on Wednesday the 21st. I will be helping you to understand and interpret the slave registers, okay? On the blog article that I wrote a couple days ago that's uploaded on the Findmypast website on the Windrush generation, it references a link to the Windrush passenger list that was published by the Goldsmiths University of London.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic resource. They did a wonderful job in recreating the passenger cards. You can use the filter and you can go through that also. But like I said, Guy Granum tells you all the resources because there's so many resources in that book that I can't really say give you one specific source. But the slave registers is one of them, and we'll be taking care of that in a few weeks' time. Yeah.
Brilliant. And in case you didn't know, on Findmypast, everybody at home, we have a number of records that we are attempting to add to help you in this task. So just to mention a few, we've got Jamaica church records, we've got Barbados, overall Caribbean records, we've got a few Jamaican newspapers. And then there are some other records that I've come across that people have found useful. I don't know if you can confirm that things like land records and wills.
Okay, so like land records and wills, they will be readily accessed from the islands itself, right? And that's where the tricky part comes in. If you don't remember anything today, remember these words I'm going to tell you now. Okay? There are no brick walls in doing your Caribbean genealogy. Okay, remember that. No brick walls. If I kept believing that there were brick walls in doing your genealogy, we will not be having this conversation now. I refuse to believe that. It's not in my system. Okay. Yes, you will find a little bit of tricky things going on, but do not say there are brick walls. Things will open up for you.
You sound like an eternal optimist.
I am. Okay, two experiences. A couple of months ago, I came home from work and I'm sitting here by the computer. A thought came in my head. I needed to call my mom in Trinidad. And asked her about the negatives from old photos. I don't know why. I called her right away. I said, "Mommy, do you have those old negatives?" Because I was going to because I said to her, I said, "I have this machine here, to convert the negatives, and digitize it. I bought this machine years ago, right? Um, and then she said, I just threw away the negatives in the garbage." She had just dropped the negatives in the garbage the moment I spoke to her. Like,
What?
I was like, "What?" That's exactly what I said. I said, "What?" So
That's crazy.
okay, so listen to that little voice in your head. Okay. About 4 years ago, we like to go to Trinidad ever so often. So we were planning on going to Trinidad. I sat down with my notepad, writing down everything that I need to do, listing the archives. I need to go this and this. And then a thought came in my head that tells me there is something in Trinidad that you need to find. I didn't know what it was, Ellie. It was just weird. It was at the back of my
Spooky.
mind. Yes, and it kept annoying me. So we went to Trinidad, and then unexpectedly, I made a trip to visit somebody. Just last minute, literally last minute. The person, I saw what the person had, and I said, they were selling some stuff. I said, I want to buy that from you. And when the person pulled it out, when I pulled it out actually, and I looked at it, it was this book. It's a ledger, okay. When I opened it up, my heart almost dropped. You know, this book is a ledger written in Trinidad in the late 1950s. It contains it was a ledger that a gentleman who had a shop would write. If you came to buy something, Ellie, it tells you exactly what you bought that day and the amount you bought and the price of the item. It also had the name of the individual in the book, and it was from an area in Trinidad called Pool Valley. Pool Valley was the spot where my mom grew up in. Right? That was where she lived. You cannot find this book anywhere at all. That was what I had to find in Trinidad. So what
That's
I'm
so
telling you
spooky.
so what I'm telling you is that doing your genealogy work is much more, I should say, than doing a physical research, looking up stuff online. It's finding things, connecting you to your family, right? And that will make the experience more livable, make the journey much more better, right? Because you are walking in their footsteps, you are eating what they ate when they were younger, you were experiencing everything, right? So listening, call it whatever it is you want, but listening to my son say, Daddy, your ancestors are talking to you.
I think we've all experienced that, haven't we, everybody?
Yeah. So I have learned to stop. I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning doing genealogy work. I spend 2 to 3 hours every day, right? Perfecting all this Caribbean research for the past how many years now, right? So Caribbean genealogy is quite fascinating. Sorry.
I thought that was brilliant. Actually, it reminds me very much of I was visiting my mum last month, and my father died many years ago when I was young, and I was looking at my mum's and my sister's bookshelf, just loads of books, and just seeing if there's anything I wanted to read there. And I pulled something off the shelf, and it was this old book that looked like it could just fall apart, and it was a stamp collection book. And I open it up, and there is my father's handwriting as a child saying that this belonged to him. But it must be much older than that because of some of the language that's used. And I'm pretty sure it says at the front that it was published, this particular collection book was published in the 30s. So then I'm thinking, did that belong to his father? Because I never knew him. And it was just amazing just to see that. And all I was doing was looking for a book to read. And then I find that I've never seen in my life before. And I went to my mum and I said, why have I never seen this? Why do you hide these things from me?
I hope you have it.
Not here with me. No, I left it at my mum's, but I did spend a good hour looking through it. It was lovely. Anyway, let's move on. I just have another couple of questions for you, and then what we'll do is we'll take some of our lovely audience questions as well. So the next question I've got for you is about surnames. when it comes to African Caribbean genealogy? Are there any clues that we can take from our surnames?
Okay, so the idea that's been persisting for all this while now, the people were saying that you know Africans carried the names of the slave owners, right? Yes and no, right? Um, so if you okay, let's use Barbados for for an example. If you know you have an English last name, obviously a lot of them are English, try and trace it back to see where in the parish of Barbados there might be a plantation owner with a similar name or whatever, you know. And then sometimes what I have found um, while doing research on the slave registers, no two enslaved person in the plantation would have the same name, right? When the slave registers were being compiled, Trinidad was the only one that had that Africans had a first name and a last name. All the other islands did not have until later on, but not as much. You do find him here and there, but Trinidad was the only one that had first names and last names. I don't know why, right? But maybe the surnames were adopted later on, maybe in the late 1800s and everything. You know, there is a couple of people, I can't think of them right now, but one of them, there's an article on on Findmypast website regarding where he was able to trace his ancestors back to slavery times. You know, so if anyone's more interested in that, they can go back and see what he did. You know, but just remember, it's not set in stone, right? You will find clues here and there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Right, I think I've just got one last question for you then, and it's just about sort of your top 3 tips, I suppose, for anybody starting this, revisiting it. What, I mean, in addition to all the advice and knowledge you've already shared,
Okay.
what would your top 3 tips be for this kind of research?
All right, so at the top of my head, commit yourself to those minutes every week, right? Get Guy Granum's book, right? And what's coming to mind is get the memory shelf. You know, they're stepping stones, but they're doors that will lead you into more answers. Yeah.
And I think that advice, a lot of that advice can also be applied to all aspects of family history. So if you don't have a memory shelf, everybody at home, you need a memory shelf. I've actually got, I say memory shelf, it's more just an assortment of books and photographs and
memory shelf
and stationery just like here. You guys can't see it.
I should hashtag that and patent that.
You should. You absolutely should. Okay, so what we're going to do now is some questions from all of the audience. Now, Niall has had to leave us because he had a meeting to go to, but we have Jen in the comments with us now. So say hi to Jen, everybody. If you've not had your question for Puran in yet, please add it into the comments. We have about 20 to 15 minutes left, so we'll try and get as many as we can. So the first question is from William. He says, what made you choose the genealogy field in the first place for a career?
To be honest with you, I have no idea. I did law for 2 years with the Law Clerks of Ontario, and I wanted to get into law. And then when I went into the University of Toronto and I was looking for a course to do, I'll be honest again, it just popped out at me. It literally just popped out at me. All the classes, you know, I had the time available to look after my newborn son while my wife was at work. So it fit perfectly into my timetable. And I was like, well, let's just go with it and see where it goes. And I had no idea. But the interesting thing is, I was collecting all these things for the past years, not knowing what I was doing, and now everything is slowly coming together. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a. I mean, for some of it's a hobby, for some of us it's a career, for others, it's just something we do on the weekend, But I think it's important to many of us in different ways, I suppose. Okay, so next question is from Andrew, who says, I have a friend who's from Trinidad and I'm looking to do her tree for a Christmas surprise. Can you tell me some more about Trinidadian records?
Okay, so you have to be a little bit more specific with your friend and where is she from? Like, what's her background? If she's African or East Indian or Chinese, right? And then we can maybe go from there because there are different records for different ancestry. What I would suggest though, there's a couple of Facebook groups you can join, and maybe Andrew can post this question on the Findmypast forum. Yes, why don't you do that? There you go, Andrew. Post it on the Findmypast forum, and then I can answer your questions there, and then look at the video coming up on the 21st. There will be a lot more resources for that. Yeah.
Fantastic. Next question we've got is from Anya. Let's share this one. So I have an ancestor born in St. Kitts around 1804, but I think her parents were only there traveling with a regiment in the Napoleonic Wars. I don't think they were African Caribbean, but I'm stumped as to where to look next. Is that period too early for records in St. Kitts and Nevis?
Okay, so
I'm going to move that because it's hiding us.
So if they were African origin, okay, there are soldier records, okay, I available from the National Archives in the UK website. I don't know if I don't think they're published publicly, but you have to find out whether or not they have African in them, and if they do, then there will be records going back to the late 1700s and stuff. And then you can contact the archives itself in St. Kitts, right? And then they will be able to help you better also. Yeah.
Shout out to all the archives out there. You're doing amazing work. Next question is from Richard, who says, I'm searching Morrison ancestors from Jamaica. Got back to Alexander Morrison, born about 1884, died 1954. He married Imogen Allen. I cannot get back any further. Do you have any suggestions for where I can go and find out more?
Okay. So if you've tried Family Search, they're the only one I can think of right now. Because, and then with Findmypast, just do a name search and see, and then you'll have to eliminate it as you go along because the records do go back. I would assume maybe till the late 1700s sometimes. So yeah, do that. Try that and see. Yeah, because resources are quite limited, right? And if I could just say something for 30 seconds here. Findmypast is doing an excellent job right now making all these available, to the Caribbean people, and I know they're going to be doing work on India, so I'm throwing that out there too, so I think as more requests come in to Findmypast, and I would encourage the West Indians in the community, just inundate them with lots of questions, regarding this. Just petition, and Findmypast will get some more work done. So yeah, sorry.
That's all right. It's an ongoing project, everybody.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
More to be done. Okay, next question is from Victoria, who says, what are the best Caribbean sweets then?
Okay, so if you come to the Caribbean, you gotta eat a snow cone. Okay. Rum and raisin ice cream. Coconut ice cream. Food wise, you have to try some curry curry chicken, curry goat, roti, and Trinidad doubles. You have to try some doubles. Google that. Google
I was going to say,
Trinidad.
what are those?
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you. Google Trinidad doubles. Believe me, your taste buds will love you forever. But get slight pepper with the doubles.
See, that doesn't make sense because I don't know what it is yet, but that's my
That's
homework. And if
okay.
nobody else knows, that's your homework as well.
Yeah.
Next question is from Tiffany, who says, did the Philippines have a significant migration in the Caribbean?
Now they're coming to Trinidad. I know that. Now I see a lot of Filipinos coming to Trinidad. There might be some here and there. Okay, West Indians can be found everywhere, right? Um, Angel Island, okay, which is off the coast of California, is referred to as the Ellis Island in the west. People think that West Indians didn't go there or landed there, but West Indians did land there, right? We just have to find them. So I think Tiffany, you might have to do a little bit more digging, but I haven't found any Filipino documents saying that that they came earlier on, in the Caribbean. But that's a very good question, though. Very
Yep,
good.
thank you everybody for your questions so far. These are excellent. The next one we've got is from Helen, who says, my Scottish ancestor went to Jamaica in the mid 1700s and was a farmer. Would he have been shipped there willingly?
So there is a book out called Scots in Jamaica by Dobson. You can check that out, Helen. You might have to do some more digging, Helen, because with all the Europeans coming to the Caribbean, they did come for different reasons. Take for instance Thomas Thistlewood, or Thomas Thistlewood, sorry, Thomas Thistlewood. He came to Jamaica to make his fortune. He had no money, but he did. He made a lot of money, and he wrote a book. So you can Google him, Thomas Thistlewood. But I'm pretty sure when you say a farmer, usually it's always a plantation owner. Yeah.
Next question is an excellent one, and it's one I had as well. Alan says, how many pirates of African descent have you come across?
I just got a book by a lady called Marina Carter, uh, Pirates in the Caymanas, I think, Caymanas. My mind is telling me there might be a couple of them, but now you have me thinking now.
We'll have to get back to you on that one, Alan.
For sure. Now you have me thinking. I'm sure there might be a couple of them. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just flicking through the rest of the questions because Jen is sending me them as we go. Okay, yeah, here we go. So we've got a question from Sherry who says, are you finding more people during DNA testing in other countries, and are they helping you with your family search?
Okay, so someone had offered me, I'm not going to say who they were, a DNA kit. And I told the person, a DNA kit serves me no purpose because you're going to tell me that I am from India, which I already know that, and I'm South Asian. So it serves me no purpose. And I have never been interested in DNA testing, honestly. I don't know why. I think that because of India and I know Africa, there are a lot of people doing DNA testing in Africa. I think when a lot more people decide to do DNA testing, then I think there'll be relevance to it. But for me right now, there's really no purpose because I still have to do the paper trail. And both of them, they work together, right? You have to do both of them. So maybe there's a reason why I have to do all the paper trail first, and then the DNA will connect everything. And I think that will help out when you do your African genealogy. you go so far, right? And then when you do the DNA testing, then it will narrow down your search. Yeah.
Okay, next question we've got is from Tess. So Tess says, I have ancestors who at some point worked or owned a plantation on Barbados. I looked in all the obvious places, but was unable to find much information about them there. This is in the mid 1600s. Do you have any idea of where I can continue looking?
Okay, so I have here a map. I'm a collector also, guys. So this
Let
map
me
is
move the question. There we go.
So this map is over 200 years old. So it goes back to 1817. So look to see if there is a map at the National UK Archives. Okay, and there should be records there, plantation records, regarding all of this. Now, if you want to bump your questions also to the Findmypast forum too, that will help me out a lot more because I can always go into a little bit more detail, guys. And I can do the research and I can tell you, but National Archives UK, treasure trove of information that hasn't been published, that we need to dig in, and unveil, seriously. Yeah.
Brilliant. The next question I've got is from Henry, and he says, how do I find the plantation that my 4 times great grandmother was based at? I have her name and the area in Jamaica.
Same thing. Check the archives, contact the Jamaica archives also, and also look for the map of Jamaica. There is sorry guys, I'm looking for a book right now behind me. There is a book called Jamaica Surveyed, right? It's really hard to find, but you can borrow one from the library. That will give you a little bit more background about plantation maps and stuff, and help you out over there. But like I said, post it on the forum, and I'll get back also. Yeah.
Okay, I've got another question here, but I'm having trouble bringing it up, so I'm just going to read it out. Melanie asks, I have a well-known surname. How do I see if it's the right family I'm looking for? Oh, here we go. I found it. Here we go. There we go. That's the question.
I think you probably have to just keep digging and digging and eliminating as you go. Okay. I tell people, if you're not comfortable with the computer and putting your family tree online, or you don't know how to do it, go to the dollar store and get one of those, we call it Bristol boards, and these huge sheets, and just start writing everything down and just start eliminating. Get a map of the area. There is something called a cadastral. Okay, CADASTRAL. Those are also really informative in helping you find out names and stuff. So yeah.
I quite like, because I'm half a Jones, and Joneses make up probably half the population of Wales. What I like to do in this instance is use cross-referencing. So yeah, okay, the Jones bit of information might be the most common thing, but then you look for other clues. So whether it's a middle name that used to be a maiden name of a mother or a grandmother, whether it's an occupation, whether it's a particular parish, use those little bits of information, as Pooran says, to eliminate ones and then keep ones in your basket, so to speak, and then you can hopefully go from there.
And also, Ellie, if I interject a little bit, always remember to document your source.
Absolutely.
And who told you, and the day, the year, or whatever. So at least 2 years from now, you can go back to it and say, well, was Auntie Ellie right about this? Yeah.
Right, I think we've got time for one more question before we wrap up. In fact, what we'll do is we'll do 2. It doesn't matter if we go a little bit over the hour. So Michelle says, I'm trying to help a friend trace her Caribbean roots from Grenada and Trinidad. In particular, the name Stanislaus, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, which is unusual. It doesn't sound British, and my research has led me to believe it is Eastern European. Have you got any idea of how that name ended up in the Caribbean?
Okay, so right now I am working on getting published stuff, names regarding the East Indians who came to Guyana. And what I've discovered in my search, we had Germans also coming into Guyana in the mid 1800s as laborers, so there were people coming in, and it depends on the timeline also, because there were also Jews coming into the Caribbean also, right? So maybe just do a little bit more Google searching, see if a book might be published regarding Eastern European migration to the Caribbean, or an article, a scholarly article, you know. So the time that you have allotted yourself to do your research every week, you can spend time doing that. So don't overwhelm yourself. Yeah.
Fantastic. We've got a question from Miko, who is one of our colleagues here at Findmypast. So we'll ask his question. In terms of historical communities in the Caribbean, when looking at parish registers, do these primarily cover the colonial community or also the locals? When do civil registers begin usually? And are these records kept locally or in the UK? Miko, I feel that's like 3 questions in one.
I know, Miko, that's unfair. Okay, so their records are kept in the local country island, and there were also records kept in the UK, right? Locally, you'll probably find more records, but it's really difficult, right, to find these records. And contacting the archives are the best way to get it. It is really, really frustrating sometimes trying to get a hold of archives at times, and I don't know what is the situation right now during the COVID, you know, um, period right now, but the records do cover both. It will cover, if I can use the term, white, and also the locals. It will cover both. Yeah.
Great. Well, we're going to have to finish up there, I'm afraid, everybody. I said to Pooran before we went live that the hour just usually goes very quickly with these discussions, and it really has. It's just flown by. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. Thank you for all your fantastic questions and for joining in the conversation in the comments. Please continue to do so, whether it's in the comments, whether it's in the Findmypast forum. You can interact with Pooran there. And thank you to Pooran as well. You've been an incredible guest. So thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you. I have another article that's going to be published in Findmypast, and this is really a heartbreaking, heart-wrenching article. So please look forward to this, and please read it and share it like crazy. And if you have friends, from the Caribbean who want to learn how to do their genealogy, help them. Help them as much as you can, and please refer them to the Findmypast blog articles, because a lot is being done right now, and I appreciate and thank you to Findmypast. So thank you.
Be sure as well, if you have enjoyed this broadcast, please share it, tag your friends in it, people that you think might enjoy it. Tomorrow, Jen is back for Friday's live. Thank you, Jen, for monitoring comments in the second half of this session. Pooran is going to be back on Wednesday, the 21st of October. This is going to be in the evening UK time, 8:30 UK time, for a session on African Caribbean migration. So make sure you come back for that. So I'm just going to check to see if anybody's saying goodbye and thank you. Yes, Anya, Victoria, Linda, Richard, Danielle, Barbara, Sherry, Valerie. Fantastic. Thanks, everybody. I hope you have a lovely afternoon, and thank you, Pooran. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.